Chosen One, I require you to suspend all activities and focus solely on the information I am about to convey, as it occurred exactly 72 hours ago and you were unaware of it. You were so mentally drained, overwhelmed, and exhausted that you failed to recognize it as a test. However, it was. It was the final assessment, the final exam. The final assessment determines whether a soul is ready to assume genuine spiritual authority, or if they must return to the preparation stage. The following is what you should be aware of. You received a passing grade. Not barely passed. Is not passed with a slim margin. You demonstrated such undeniable character transformation that the spiritual realm felt compelled to immediately convene the Council of Elevation, as described in ancient texts. You passed with distinction. Additionally, at exactly 3:33 a.m. tonight, an event will take place in dimensions that the naked eye cannot see, but the soul can feel. Heaven will officially commission you, not symbolically or metaphorically, but literally, in the unseen realms where spiritual authority is given. You will be granted permission to operate at a level at which you have been training for your entire life without your knowledge. Please do not assume that this will suddenly simplify your life, or that promotion will lead to a smooth transition. The upcoming events tonight are not intended to reward good behavior. It acknowledges that you can now be trusted with a higher level of responsibility. And increased responsibility always results in a greater challenge. However, there is a difference. Following tonight, you will face those challenges with the help of spiritual resources that were previously unavailable to you. Instant access to knowledge. Automatic discernment. Unwavering tranquility. Authority that does not need to make an announcement. Heaven commissions someone, which is exactly what happens. Capacity rather than comfort. Empowerment, not simplification. Not relaxation, but instead readiness. I will inform you of the test that was given 3 days ago, as it is critical that you understand the material that you successfully completed. Something occurred around 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. That caused you to go over your limit. It's possible that the conversation was completely misguided. It's possible that the situation reactivated all of the old wounds you thought were healed. Perhaps you were so overwhelmed by loneliness that you couldn't stop crying. You maintained a state of numb silence. Perhaps it was an act of betrayal so shocking that your mind couldn't process it. It's possible that you were so exhausted that you couldn't think, and instead reacted instinctively. Whatever it was for you, it sent you into a state of automaticity. You were unable to perform because of exhaustion. I am too damaged to maintain a facade. The appropriate response cannot be determined due to a lack of resources. You were simply existing. You lacked the energy to be anything but your most authentic self. And at that moment, no one was present. If you had made a different choice, no one would have known. When you had every reason to be bitter, in retribution, with regard to selfishness, with cruelty, by way of compromise, you didn't. When you were exhausted and unable to control your emotions, your innermost being responded immediately with integrity. Someone may have verbally assaulted you, and your instinct was not to fight back, but rather to remain silent. It's possible that you had access to information that could have benefited you at the expense of another person, but were unable to capitalize on it. It is possible that you were given the opportunity to reveal the identity of the person who harmed you, but you declined. Perhaps you were faced with a choice between your own comfort and the well-being of another person, and without hesitation, chose their welfare. It's possible that you faced temptation alone and no one would have known. However, you continued to leave. The specific circumstance is irrelevant. What matters is this. You no longer have to demonstrate your goodness. It is part of your identity. Your integrity is no longer a conscious choice you make whenever you have the energy. It serves as the default configuration. Your automatic operating system and the one you've chosen. That is the truth that heaven had anticipated, and it is revealed here. They do not instruct you in religious settings. Your theology has no relevance to the spiritual realm. It makes no difference how many scriptures you have memorized. It makes no difference how many spiritual books you've read or how long you've spent in prayer or meditation. It is preoccupied with this singular question. Who are you when you don't have the energy to be anything but your authentic self? What is your identity when your masks start to fall off due to fatigue and inability to keep them on? Who are you if no one is present and no one will ever know what you decided? That is the only relevant question because it determines whether your transformation is genuine or fabricated. And 3 days ago, in that state of complete exhaustion, you answered that question. The answer was so unmistakable, clear, and confirmed that the observation deck in the spiritual realm, where assigned angels monitor human development, erupted. Applause is not appropriate because it is a human emotion. Instead, it is a form of recognition. Bomb, the type of recognition that occurs when a person discovers their true identity. When potential is realized. When preparation turns into readiness. When training turns into mastery. Allow me to elaborate on the significance of 333 this morning. First and foremost, it is critical to understand that time works differently in the spiritual realm than it does in physical reality. However, there are times when the line between dimensions becomes more blurred, allowing spiritual activity to more easily penetrate physical reality and downloads to occur with less interference. One of those moments occurred at 3:33 a.m. This is the reason. Between 3 and 4 a.m., human consciousness reaches its lowest point of activity. The majority of people are currently having their most profound sleep. The spiritual environment lacks the usual collective mental chatter. In that stillness, in that silence, the spiritual realm can function precisely. However, the number 333 is especially important. The number 3 represents divine completeness in sacred mathematics, which is not superstition, but the recognition of patterns across all wisdom traditions. Father, Son, Spirit, birth, life, death, beginning, middle, end, past, present, future, mind, body, and soul. It is the number of completions. When it is tripled, 333, it indicates completion upon completion upon completion, the end of a cycle, the graduation of a phase, and the clearance of a level. This is why significant spiritual transitions throughout history have frequently included a variation of the number 3. 3 days were spent in Jesus' tomb. Jonah spent 3 days inside the whale. 3 days before Passover, the Israelites set out on their journey. It's a pattern. In addition, your pattern will be finalized at 3:33 p.m. tonight. This is the actual outcome. Ancient texts describe the court of heaven as the location where your soul will be brought before it, while your conscious mind is asleep. Your body will remain in your bed, but your soul will be transported to a dimensional, spiritual space where spiritual authority is granted, and you will be given 3 specific authorizations. These are not permissions that can be used in any manner. These are spiritual abilities activated by your character, which is why you had to pass the initial test. The universe does not give weapons to people who may misuse them. It only grants authority to those who have demonstrated a willingness to refrain from abusing it. This is the ability to understand situations, people, and circumstances at a level that does not require intellectual analysis. You will start to acquire knowledge that is not logically derived. You will be able to understand the underlying dynamics of conversations. You will be able to recognize when something is wrong before you can articulate the cause. You will understand others' genuine intentions, even if they do not disclose them. This isn't a psychic ability. This is discernment that has been sharpened to the point where your spirit perceives spiritual activity in the same way that your eyes see physical activity. It will appear so natural that you will not realize it is supernatural. You will simply be aware of certain things, and you will later wonder how you knew them when you are proven correct. This is how you will know that this authorization is active. 2. Authorization. Unwavering tranquility. This isn't happiness. Circumstances determine happiness. This is a state of tranquility that lasts regardless of the circumstances. You will navigate storms while remaining calm. You will be attacked, but remain composed. You will experience both disorder and a sense of equilibrium. Not because you are immune to external influences, but because you are deeply rooted in a foundation that is independent of circumstance. It will be noticed by others. They will ask how you keep your cool, and you will be unable to respond satisfactorily because the peace you have is not the result of any technique or practice that you can teach. It evolves from your personality over time. It is the result of having seen a lot of fire, which has made you resistant to heat. 3. Authorization. Spiritual authority. This is the most difficult to express because it does not involve the manipulation of anyone or anything. It's about how much weight your presence carries. When you speak, people pay attention. Others respect the act of remaining silent. When a boundary is established, it is in effect until a decision is reached. Things are in harmony. Not because you are applying pressure, but because you have established yourself as a figure who can be trusted to wield that level of power. In the wrong hands, this authorization is dangerous. However, in the right hands, which have been purified through suffering and tested, it becomes a tool for blessing rather than control, liberation rather than manipulation, elevation rather than dominance. As a result, the universe conducts tests on individuals before granting them this authority. There is no instruction manual included with these 3 authorizations. A user guide is not included. They will activate tomorrow morning, and you will be able to identify their activity by looking for 3 specific signs. Sign 1 demonstrates almost eerie mental clarity. When you wake up, your mind will be more alert than it has been in years, if not ever. Confusion that has obscured your decisions, fog that has clouded your thoughts, and overwhelm that has made everything seem complicated. It will vanish rather than be diminished. In its place, profound clarity will allow you to navigate situations that previously took weeks to resolve. You will understand the concept within minutes. Not because you suddenly have all of the answers, but because you can suddenly discern what is important and what is not. You will be able to confidently make decisions that were previously paralyzing. And what is significant becomes clear. If you are reading this and notice that a change occurred 3 days ago but are unable to identify the specifics, please do me a favor and enter 777 in the comments section. This is not a superstitious or lucky gesture, but rather a spiritual symbol. When chosen ones recognize each other and witness each other's transitions, their frequency amplification has an impact on the spiritual realm. Your 777 is reserved exclusively for you. This is for anyone who needs confirmation that they are not insane, that a real change has occurred, and that their perception of change is correct. 2 signatures are required. Emotional balance that surprises you. You will notice that the things that once triggered you no longer do. Individuals who once drained you are no longer able to do so. You now find that previously overwhelming situations are manageable. This is not because you are suppressing your emotions. It is not a result of your gradual numbing. It is the result of rebalancing your emotional center. You have faced numerous challenges that have required the development of emotional fortitude. However, the majority of people never build anything. It is possible to feel strong emotions without being affected by them. It is possible to be compassionate without being consumed. It is possible to love while maintaining one's identity. Additionally, the public will observe this stability. It will be tested in practice. They will unconsciously try to elicit the old response from you. And when you don't give it to them, when you respond calmly in a situation where you previously responded agitatedly, they'll be perplexed. There will be individuals who follow it. It will be a danger to others. This will allow you to determine which individuals are appropriate to include in your next chapter and which are not. Signage number 3. Synchronicities that are too accurate to be coincidental. You will notice that life is synchronizing in your favor in ways that are beyond explanation tomorrow, or perhaps the day after. You will require something and it will appear. A person will come to mind and contact you. You will have a question, and the answer will come in the most unexpected way. You will encounter an impediment, and the exact resource you require will be provided. This is not a manifestation. This is not an example of the law of attraction. When you reach a spiritual level, the universe begins to orchestrate reality around you in new ways because you can now be trusted with that level of support. In the past, the universe was unable to provide you with a large number of material possessions because you were not prepared to manage them effectively while your character was being tested. However, you have now demonstrated that you will not take advantage of the blessing. You will not worship provision. You will not exploit favor in order to allow the floodgates to open without destroying you. I must now warn you about a subtle threat that has the potential to undermine everything you've recently accomplished. It's deceptive. Most people do not notice its subtle infiltration until it has already eroded their spiritual pride. When you wake up tomorrow with mental clarity, emotional stability, and perfect synchronicity, you will encounter a temptation, a whisper, or a thought. The thought will sound like this: I've finally arrived. I am superior to those who are still facing difficulties. I have a unique quality. I've been selected. I am exempt from the turmoil that ordinary people face. If you continue to believe this, cultivate this arrogance, and allow it to take root in your mind, you will lose everything you've recently gained. Gradually, rather than immediately. That mental clarity is about to fade. That emotional balance is about to crumble. Those synchronicities will cease, as the universe only gives power to those who remain humble. The moment you begin to look down on others from your elevated position, you begin your descent. As a result, the following is the course of action to take if that thought occurs, which it will. You recall 3 years ago when you were the one going through difficulties. You recall the time 5 years ago when you were the one who got lost. During that time, you remember feeling shattered and frantic, unsure how you would get through. You recall each person who showed you kindness, even when you were undeserving. Each person who remained patient with you during your difficult times. Everyone who believed in you even when you had no reason to believe in yourself. You allow that memory to keep you humble. Not a false humility in which one pretends to be powerless, but a genuine humility in which one acknowledges that their power was obtained at a cost, and that cost inspires compassion, rather than contempt for those who are still paying the price. The crown you will receive tonight is not a trophy. It functions as a device. It does not imply that you are superior to all others. It acknowledges that you are capable of taking on additional responsibilities. Humility is always necessary for responsibility. The moment you believe your crown gives you superiority, you demonstrate that you were unprepared for it. So, wear it with gratitude. Wear it with awareness. Wear it with the understanding that those who receive much are expected to give back. Your advancement is not driven by vanity. Your assignment requires your promotion. Your role is to be a guiding light in dark places, a source of calm in chaotic places, and a steadfast presence in the midst of turmoil. I'll now inform you of the person who has the authority to remove your crown after you receive it tonight. It's not divine. God's actions are not determined by his moods or errors. It's not the devil. There is no authority over what heaven grants to the devil. Circumstances are not the cause. External circumstances cannot eliminate internal authority. You are the only person capable of removing your crown. The only way to accomplish this is to deliberately, consciously, and knowingly compromise your integrity for personal gain, even if you are fully aware of the consequences. This is not an accident, a temporary weakness, or a failure to achieve perfection. It is a deliberate betrayal of one's own character. You've decided to use your spiritual authority to manipulate others, your discernment to control them, and your peace as a weapon to make others feel inadequate. When you weaponize your blessings, when you abuse the gifts you've been given, when you turn tools meant for construction into weapons meant for destruction, you lose your crown, not as punishment, but as protection. Because an individual with spiritual authority who is corrupted is more dangerous than an individual without authority. This is why the examination was so rigorous. This is why you were required to pass the Level 3 evaluation. The one in which your character is tested when you are too exhausted to finish it. 3 days ago, you showed the universe that your default setting remains intact, even in your most vulnerable, weakest, and worst-case scenarios. As a result, when you receive these authorizations tonight, you can be confident that they are secure in your possession. Heaven knows you won't mistreat them. Heaven knows your default response will be character-driven, regardless of whether you are tired, depleted, or overwhelmed. However, it is critical that you understand the following about how to care for your crown after you purchase it. It is not about being flawless. You will continue to make errors. You are still going to have bad days. You will continue to have occasional failures. This is indicative of human nature. It is critical to understand your trajectory. Do you intend to increase or decrease your level of integrity? Is it more appropriate to show humility or pride? Increased service or increased selfishness? Your crown will be secure as long as you are committed to growth. Recognize when you fall short and correct course, and keep your trajectory upward. It is not prone to damage. It does not shatter after the initial error. However, it responds to intentional, persistent character betrayal. Therefore, safeguard it. Not with perfection, but with commitment. With faithfulness instead of flawlessness. I will now reveal the more profound reason for your appointment at this precise moment in history. It's not arbitrary. It isn't just because you've completed your personal journey. Because the world is going through an unprecedented amount of upheaval, it is critical that people who can maintain a sense of stability are present. Older systems are collapsing. The institutions in which people had faith are being exposed. The authorities on which individuals relied are being investigated. In the midst of this chaos, people will be desperately looking for a solid foundation to cling to. Not information. Not theories. Not a guarantee. However, there is tangible evidence that it is possible to maintain self-respect while making other compromises. Living proof that it is possible to remain calm in the midst of widespread anxiety. Living evidence that it is possible to love in the face of hatred. You are living proof of this. It's not because you know all the answers. Not because you never face difficulties. It isn't because you're perfect. However, your life demonstrates that transformation is genuine. It is possible to forge that character. That optimism can withstand the depths of hell. They will want to know your secret after witnessing your peace in the midst of their chaos and your stability in the midst of their storm. Furthermore, your confidentiality cannot be articulated in words. One of your secrets stems from your exposure to fire. Furthermore, the only way to teach it is to experience it firsthand. That is your responsibility as the chosen person who has been commissioned. Not to save every individual. Not to resolve all issues. Not to have responses to all inquiries. However, to demonstrate that it is possible to navigate darkness and emerge with clarity. That is enough. That is completely sufficient. Therefore, at 3:33 p.m. tonight, when your soul is presented to the court of heaven and those 3 authorizations are granted, accept them with an open heart and humility. When you wake up tomorrow and feel the transformation, when you notice the synchronicity, peace, and clarity, remember that these are tools, not awards. Use them to bestow blessings. Use them to construct. Use them to show affection. Examine the universe's reaction to someone who possesses power but uses it with humility. At that point, miracles are the norm. At this point, the provision becomes consistent. This is when doors you were previously unaware of open. Your examination has ended. Your crown is ready. Your commission begins tonight. Gently navigate it. Serve with authority. In the absence of light, radiate it. Because that is how the chosen behave. It is not because they are superior to others, but rather because they are reliable when the majority of people fail. You are that dependable person, and tonight, heaven confirms it. If you are aware that something changed within you 3 days ago, or if you believe that a test was successfully completed despite your lack of knowledge about the test, please enter 777 in the comments section right now. It's not a mystical number. It functions as an indicator. A spiritual compass. A confirmation from heaven that you received this message at the exact time. In addition, the presence of your 777 confirms the experiences of other selected individuals. This is how we identify one another not by what we say, but by the experiences we've had and the people we've become as a result. If this message has struck a chord with you and you don't want to miss the next installment, please subscribe and enable notifications. Because the events that are about to unfold in your life as a newly appointed chosen one will require guidance, confirmation, and encouragement. That is why this channel exists. To assist people like you in understanding the spiritual dynamics of their experiences, preventing them from becoming delusional and walking alone. Just one more thing. If you were listening to the message and thought of someone who is currently going through their own final test, who is exhausted, broken, and operating on autopilot, please forward this message to them. They require assurance that their suffering is not arbitrary. They may be closer to passing than they realize, given that it is the final exam. Your contribution may provide them with the assurance they need to get through another day. And that extra day could be all that's needed to establish their character and activate their own commissioning. Chosen one. Your loneliness was caused by an evaluation, not abandonment. Your exhaustion was not punishment, but rather a form of preparation. Your breaking resulted in transformation rather than destruction. And tonight, at 3:33, heaven confirms what you've already demonstrated. You're prepared. I extend a hearty welcome to your coronation. However, before we conclude, I must tell you about the practical changes you will notice in your daily life. Spiritual commissioning affects not only your inner world, but also your physical movements. Modify 1. People will react differently to you. Certain people will be drawn to you for reasons they do not understand. They will seek your guidance, desire to be in your company, and experience a sense of security in your presence. These are people whose spirits recognize the authority you now wield. Others, however, will be repelled by you for unknown reasons. They will avoid you, feel uneasy, and find reasons not to engage. These are people whose dysfunction conflicts with your peace. The attraction and the repulsion are both reactions. They are confirmation that your frequency has also changed. Your capacity to tolerate specific environments will diminish. Locations that you previously tolerated will immediately deplete your energy. You will experience a toxic atmosphere in conversations that you previously engaged in. Your spiritual sensitivity has been enhanced, and low-frequency environments will drain you. Therefore, whenever you experience an unpleasant environment, it is advisable to depart. If a conversation becomes toxic, it is suggested that you leave. You are not being impolite. You are abiding by your discernment. Substitute 3. Your relationship with time is about to undergo a transformation. You will experience a sense of urgency, not anxiety, but rather a recognition that time is a valuable resource. Activities that previously consumed hours will appear senseless. The allure of distractions that previously consumed you will diminish. Your purpose is being activated at a deeper level, and each moment spent on activities that are not in alignment feels like time that has been stolen. Substitute 4. Your relationship with the divine is about to undergo a significant transformation. It will cease to be perceived as an action and will instead be perceived as an aspect of your identity. You will be in perpetual communion. The line is perpetually accessible. The connection is perpetually operational. Tuning in is effortless once you establish a connection. Change 5. The movement of your finances and resources will be alternative. Provision will manifest in unexpected manners. You will observe that you consistently possess precisely the items you require at precisely the appropriate time. This is a manifestation of divine favor. Frequently, the universe offers all the necessities in ways that circumvent conventional systems. I would now like to address a critical question. What if I do not experience those symptoms tomorrow? Does this imply that I failed? Here is what you need to understand. Divine timing governs the spiritual realm, as opposed to human anticipation. The signs might unfold gradually, appear subtly, or hit you all at once. It is important to remain vigilant in order to identify them when they appear, as spiritual promotion occasionally results in increased resistance. The enemy launches an immediate attack in an attempt to convince you to relinquish the possession you have recently acquired. So if tomorrow is harder, don't interpret that as evidence that nothing changed. Interpret it as evidence that something major changed. Let me also tell you what not to do. Don't announce your commission. Don't post about it on social media. The spiritual realm values secrecy during initial phases of empowerment. Hold this close. Share it only with people who would understand. Let the transformation speak through your life before you speak about it. Also, don't try to force the authorizations to activate. They work naturally when needed, not artificially when forced. Trust that when wisdom is needed, it will be there. When peace is threatened, it will hold. Let it happen organically. And finally, remember this. Being commissioned doesn't mean you never struggle again. What it means is that you now have access to resources that help you handle struggles differently. You still face battles, but with weapons you didn't have before. You still walk through valleys, but with guidance you didn't have before. The difference is not the absence of difficulty. The difference is the presence of empowerment. If this message confirms something you felt but could T-name, type 777 in the comments as a declaration that you recognize your testing season is complete and your commissioning has begun. Let your 777 witness to others that transformation is real, that tests do end, that promotion does come. And if this message brought clarity, hope, or confirmation, hit that like button. Engagement helps this reach others who are in the middle of their final test, exhausted and broken, needing to know they can endure one more day. Your like could help this message find them at their exact moment of need. Make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. What happens after tonight? You are going to need ongoing guidance and confirmation. This channel exists for that purpose. To help you navigate walking in spiritual authority so you don't feel crazy and you don't walk alone. Chosen one, your loneliness wasn't abandonment. It was an assessment. Your exhaustion wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Your breaking wasn't destruction. It was a transformation. And tonight at 3:33, heaven confirms what you already proved. You're prepared. I extend a hearty welcome to your coronation.
Hello, chosen soul. Welcome back to the light community. Please hear me clearly at this time. Please refrain from scrolling. This is the moment when something has been trying to reach you all day and has finally succeeded. This message was not delivered to you by accident. 2 hours ago, your name was whispered in heavenly places, and the information I am about to provide will make sense of the events you previously thought were mere coincidences. There has been a change in the spiritual realm that concerns your life. Not tomorrow or next week. The evidence is about to manifest in your physical reality in ways you cannot deny, and it happened while you were sleeping last night. The angel in charge of your destiny has been pacing for the past 120 minutes, waiting for the exact moment when your heart will be open enough to receive the message that is meant for you. This is not a cautionary tale designed to scare you. This notification is to inform you that an individual who was assigned to investigate your life from the shadows has recently emerged and revealed all of their findings. They were altered, not apprehended. And the information they've discovered about you is about to challenge your preconceived notions about your own story. In your recent past, there was someone you either loved deeply or completely trusted, and they were unable to understand why you disappeared. Not physically, but energetically. The reason for your shift in presence. The reason for the shorter length of your responses. Why did the version of them who had access to all of you suddenly notice that the doors had been closed? They were unable to ask you directly. They were unable to do so because they were proud. They were paralyzed with fear of rejection. As a result, they made a decision that crossed a sacred line. They hired someone to observe you, your daily routines, and document your movements, interactions, and life without the details. If your chest has tightened as you read that, take a deep breath because this story does not unfold as you expected. Marcus is the person they employed. He was not unfamiliar with the type of work. He had gathered evidence for court cases, found missing people, and tracked down cheating spouses. This was just another job, paycheck, and stranger to observe and report on. However, you were not just another stranger. Hey, no. Marcus realized he had been following you to a coffee shop every Wednesday morning for the first week. You were alone by the window, with a Bible and a journal. He saw you from the opposite side of the street. Ready for the camera. Open the notebook. However, an incident occurred which he was unable to document in his report. He later stated that he felt a weight in the air around you, as if the atmosphere was distinct just a few feet from your seat. He captured images. Indeed. Nonetheless, upon reviewing them that evening, he was unable to explain the unusual brightness that surrounded your face. It was not a technical malfunction or caused by sunlight. It was a completely different phenomenon. Marcus continued the assignment as is customary among professionals. He went with you to the grocery store, work, and the park, where you strolled alone at sunset. He became increasingly agitated with each passing day, not because of your actions, but because of your inaction. You weren't concealing anything. You did not interact with any individuals who appeared suspicious. You were living a routine, unremarkable existence. However, something about the way you moved through the world disturbed him. He described the situation as if he were watching someone who was being protected by an invisible entity. It was as if you had a shield that he couldn't see but could still perceive. Marcus had a dream 3 weeks into the surveillance. He observed himself in a courtroom. However, he was the one on trial, not a witness. Furthermore, the charge did not constitute an invasion of privacy. It interfered with a person who was carrying out a divine mission. He woke up with tremors. He tried to explain it as stress, guilt, or his conscience finally catching up with him. However, the dream resurfaced the next evening. The following night, the vision became more vivid, and he was greeted by a voice he did not recognize, instructing him to stop watching and start seeing. On the fourth night, Marcus did something he had not done since childhood. He prayed. He kneeled in his apartment and prayed, "God, if you are genuine, and if this individual I am following is yours, please inform me of the appropriate course of action." His phone rang immediately after he finished his prayer. It was 2 a.m. The call came from a blocked number. He responded with silence. Then he heard a single sentence spoken by a voice that he later described as neither male nor female, young nor elderly. It stated that she does not conceal herself. She is getting back to health. Your presence makes things difficult for me. Line termination has occurred. Marcus sat in the dark, his body shaking. He accessed his laptop and went through all of the surveillance photos he had taken in the previous month. Furthermore, this time, he noticed what had been missing. Your eyes contained an element that he had never seen before in all of his years of tracking people in every single image. Not melancholy. I'm not afraid. I'm not angry. Harmony. In the midst of what should have been solitude, there is a constant calm. Marcus' heart broke right then and there. He contacted the person who had hired him and informed them that he was unable to complete the assignment. Observing from a distance will not lead you to the object of your search. This person is not concealing any information from you. They're protecting themselves from you. You would also understand the reasoning if you were able to observe it. He declined payment for the incomplete assignment. He deleted all the files, photos, and notes, He then did something that surprised even himself. He discovered a church and went inside during a Sunday service. He sat in the back row, weeping throughout the sermon. He moved forward when the altar call was issued. He gave his life to the same God who he felt was protecting you. Now, if that story elicited a strong emotional response in you, please assist me. Immediately remove the word "protected" from the comments. I'd like to know who will receive this, because the information I'm about to share will change your perspective on the entire journey. The person who hired Marcus is unaware that he stopped surveillance and gave his life to Christ. They are still anticipating a report that will never come. However, it is critical that you understand the following. It was never just about their desire for information. This was spiritual warfare disguised as curiosity. The adversary observed the transformation that was occurring within you. He noticed your departure from toxic patterns, draining relationships, and environments that no longer served your purpose. Furthermore, he was aware that your continued progress along this path would jeopardize his objectives. As a result, he summoned someone from your past to disrupt, divert, and reacquaint you with the familiar dynamics. However, God declared that this person was not to be chosen. I'm the owner of this item. In addition, he turned what was supposed to be an espionage tool into an evangelistic tool. Marcus was supposed to return with proof of your existence. Rather, he found evidence of God's presence. He was meant to give an account of your movements. Rather, he observed your peace. His responsibilities included gathering information. Instead, he received salvation. Marcus was sent by the enemy to spy on you. God used Marcus to show you that you were emitting a force powerful enough to transform lives without you saying a word, even in your most isolated moments. Do you understand the significance of this? This implies that the emotional isolation you felt was not due to abandonment. Incubation was the term. It implies that the silence you experienced was not a form of punishment. It was an act of preparation. It implies that the period during which you were required to withdraw from all activities and individuals was not one of regress. You were positioned. And as you emerge from that season, you are no longer the same person you were when you entered it. You're making a triumphant return. This is the point at which I need your full attention, not just your ears, but also your spirit. You have been marked in a biblical manner, not a superstitious or spooky manner. Similarly, David was marked as a shepherd boy. Esther was similarly marked during her time as an orphan. Similarly, Joseph was marked while still imprisoned. Heaven has designated you as a member of a specific assignment, and everyone who enters your presence, regardless of their awareness, feels this designation. This is why some people are drawn to you but don't understand why. This explains why others dislike you, despite the fact that you haven't harmed them. This is why certain relationships failed, despite efforts to save them, because it is impossible to raise everyone to the next level. Certain people are assigned to your past rather than your future. And God felt compelled to remove them, not to harm you, but to protect the foundation He is building within you. If you've ever lost people you thought were important, only to realize later that God was making room for the person you really needed, please click the like button. Make sure you notify the algorithm that this message has been received. Now, let's talk about the upcoming events. The individual who hired Marcus is about to realize that the surveillance has ended. They will be perplexed about why. They will contact him, but they will not get the responses they were expecting. Marcus will not violate your privacy by disclosing the specifics. However, he will say something that will shake them to the core. He will insist that you correct any wrongdoing you have committed against this person, regardless of the circumstances. This is not for their benefit, but yours. Well, why? Because I have observed people at all stages of their lives, and I have never seen anyone carry what they do. And if they are lost, you will lose more than you realize. That conversation will stimulate this individual. It will begin the process of conviction, from which they will be unable to escape. They will soon appear in person, humble, broken, and ready to say what they should have said a long time ago. This will not be done through a mutual friend or a text message to test the waters. Rather, it will take place in person. However, it is critical that you are aware of the following prior to that point. It is not necessary for you to accept their apology. It is not your responsibility to address their regret. Their desire to improve the situation does not necessitate you simplifying it. You have the option of listening without responding. So, you are free to acknowledge their words without letting them reintegrate into your life. You are free to forgive them in your heart while keeping the door closed in your reality. Forgiveness is not equivalent to reconciliation. It entails letting go of bitterness in order to keep it from ruining your future. It implies that you give them to God and trust Him to handle what you were never capable of carrying. However, this does not imply that you will regress. Currently, certain individuals are experiencing an increase in their defenses. During this time, you are reflecting on their actions, the emotions they elicited in you, and their sudden departure when you most needed them. Furthermore, those sentiments are valid. God is not asking you to maintain the illusion that the experience was not painful. He is not requesting that you skip the pain and go straight to forgiveness, as if it were easy. He asks that you not let that pain become a prison that you must endure for the rest of your life. Yes, because they are not punished by a lack of forgiveness. It is used as a form of punishment. It ties you to a season you've already outgrown. And you, chosen one, did not survive everything you did only to become engulfed in rage. Instead of vague spiritual advice, I'd like to give you actionable steps you can take right now to start walking in the freedom that is already yours. First, jot down the names of each person you must forgive. Avoid excessive thinking. Compose without hesitation. If an individual comes to mind, include them on the list. This is not meant for their observation. This is meant for your disposal. Second, write one sentence describing the action that caused you pain. This should be done next to every name. Provide specificity, avoid drama, and be direct. They deceived me. They chose an alternative person. They ignored me when I needed their help. Please provide words to describe the pain. Third, include this under each sentence. Temsi, I release you to God. I will not transport anything He has not requested. Finally, read the list aloud. Yes, aloud. Allow your ears to hear your voice as you choose freedom. Afterward, it is critical to dispose of it. Burn it. The act of destroying the list is a physical manifestation of a spiritual decision, not because burning paper possesses magical properties. You're watching your bitterness turn into ash. You are witnessing the dissolution of the influence those people had on your peace. Fifth, whenever you feel a resurgence of anger, which is unavoidable given the non-linear nature of the healing process, repeat this statement aloud. I've already made it available. I'm no longer under its influence. Fourth, repeat the process as needed. Your decision will eventually be reconciled with your thoughts. Sixth, stop rehearsing the statements you will make when they return. Stop imagining the conversation in which you will finally be able to express the full extent of your pain. That fantasy is what keeps you attached to them. The moment you stop requiring their approval, you will truly be free. 7th, make a list of behaviors that you will not tolerate in the upcoming season. Not out of resentment, but rather out of wisdom. What behaviors are considered deal breakers? What patterns will you make sure not to overlook in the future? Which red flags will you refuse to explain? Make a record of it. Rather than relying on hope to replace discernment, you will have a reference point when an individual reveals their identity. 8th, prioritize the relationships that have lasted. Individuals who refused to leave when things got tough. They were the ones who inquired about your whereabouts after you went silent. People who cherished you despite your flaws. Those people are comparable to gold. Don't underestimate them because you're focused on those who've left. 9th, start exclaiming the information you want to report. Healthy relationships are drawn to me. I am surrounded by people who hold me in high regard. I am currently walking in divine connections. Speak it until it becomes a reality. 10th, have faith in your instincts. It is likely that something is wrong. If an individual's actions do not match their words, it is best to trust the actions. If you have the sensation of trying to convince yourself to trust someone, this is not trust, it is hope. And hope without discernment leads you back to the place from which God has already delivered you. If you found this video useful, please share it with someone who could benefit from it right now. Bye. Do not wait until the end. Don't convince yourself that you'll finish the task later. Act now while your convictions are strong. Please allow me to speak with this individual who is returning. They've been on their own journey since hiring Marcus. They were outraged when you left their lives. In their own narrative, you were the villain. They convinced themselves that your withdrawal was cruel, your silence was a form of punishment, and you had undergone a negative transformation. However, as time passed and the anger subsided, another uncertainty arose. The conversations were reenacted. They started to notice instances where you tried to communicate, but they weren't paying attention. They started noticing patterns in their own behavior that they had previously attributed to you. Then they became more desperate. Marcus was hired at that time. They justified their actions by claiming they were simply verifying your well-being. They assured themselves that they only needed assurance that you were safe. However, they were unable to cope with the lack of knowledge about your life without them. They couldn't believe you were thriving, if not flourishing, in their absence. Gesund. That desperation is what drove them to violate your boundary in such a significant way. However, the following is something they are currently unaware of. The surveillance did not produce the anticipated results. It did not provide them with peace. Marcus continued to provide brief and ambiguous updates, prompting them to ask more questions. The subject is in good health. There is no activity that causes concern. Furthermore, each update that failed to provide them with any drama or evidence that you were having problems exacerbated their distress. Because they were inherently looking for signs that you were disintegrating without them. They wanted confirmation that their existence was important. When they were unable to obtain it, they developed feelings of guilt. The guilt has now turned into conviction. And conviction is on the verge of being put into action. They'll contact you shortly. And when they do, you must be ready. I do not intend to return them. I am not prepared to keep the illusion that everything is in order. Prepared to face your truth without apology. Are you willing to demonstrate self-love in order to maintain the peace that you have worked so hard to achieve? Prepared to remember the transformation that God worked in you during your time of isolation by refusing to dismiss it when a former acquaintance returns with a sense of remorse? Because this is an examination. They will convey all the appropriate emotions. They are expected to shed tears. They will inform you that they have realized their loss. They are going to commit to change. You'll want to believe it with every fiber of your being that still cares for them. However, at this point, wisdom must take precedence over emotion. Keep track of their life for the next 6 months. Avoid making impulsive decisions. Do not let their tears fool you into thinking that time has solved a problem that only true transformation can solve. If their transformation is genuine, it will remain so in 6 months. Your request for time and space will be honored if their apology is genuine. If they truly appreciate you, they will show it through consistent action rather than simply expressing their feelings during a single conversation. And if they try to rush you, make you feel guilty for not opening the door right away, accuse you of not being forgiving, or claim you are carrying the past over their heads, that is not conviction. That's manipulation disguised as repentance. Genuine repentance is characterized by patience. Immediate trust is not required for genuine change. Real growth recognizes that some bridges require more time to rebuild, while others are not intended to be rebuilt at all. I must also address an additional issue that has been weighing heavily on my mind throughout this message. Some of you who are viewing this are not only interacting with one person. You see a pattern. You've encountered this scenario several times in your life, each time with a different person. 不是, you're beginning to wonder if the problem is with you. I'd like to stop you at this point. You aren't the issue. The issue is that your light attracts 2 types of people, those who want to grow with you and those who want to exploit you. Furthermore, you continued to allow the second type to enter until you learned to distinguish between the 2. However, every experience you had, every disappointment, every betrayal, every person who exploited and then abandoned you served as training. It was teaching you how to distinguish between people in your inner circle and those who belong at a distance. You also now know things you didn't know before. You're aware of the signs of emotional manipulation. You're aware of the sensation of love bombing. You understand the difference between genuine interest and someone who is evaluating you to see what they can get from you. You have the ability to identify inconsistencies. You have the ability to interpret energy. You can tell when someone is being truthful and when they are giving you information that is consistent with your preferences. That knowledge is immensely powerful. And God did not give you that knowledge so that you would become bitter or closed off. He gave it to you so you could navigate the upcoming season with wisdom, rather than being perpetually wounded as a result of your proclivity to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. There's a difference between being naive and loving. Being a doormat differs from being kind. There's a difference between disregarding patterns and extending grace. You can embody all of your virtues while maintaining your peace for those who have not earned it. Before we begin praying, I'd like to discuss the events in your dreams. Several of you have recently reported having unusually vivid dreams. Dreams in which you are in places you've never been. Dreams about people you don't know convey important information about your health. Dreams in which you awaken with a sentence or phrase that sticks with you and feels significant, but you can't figure out why. These are not random. Those are prescient. Your waking hours are still too full of distractions and worry, which is why God communicates with you at night. He is implanting concepts in your subconscious that will become apparent at the appropriate time. Pay close attention to your dreams. As soon as you awaken, write down the details before they vanish. Don't dismiss them as just your brain processing the day. Request that God give you an interpretation. Inquire of Him to demonstrate His message to you, just as you are receiving responses to your prayers while sleeping. A portion of the clarity you've been seeking is being downloaded into the dream world. If you ignore it, you'll miss it. If you are unable to remember your dreams, it is recommended that you begin praying before retiring for the night. Ask God to help you retain the information He intends to reveal. Request that He wake you up immediately after a significant dream in order to record it. This is not unusual. This is biblical. God used dreams to communicate with Joseph. In his dreams, He communicated with Daniel. He warned people through their dreams. And He continues to do so for those with the ability to hear and see. I will now pray for you. I am not simply referring to the fact that you should listen to my prayers. I am implying that you agree with my viewpoint. Align your spirit with the words. Encourage your faith to ascend. Allow your heart to affirm heaven's current declarations over your life. Father, I stand in the gap for everyone who has heard and felt this message cut through the noise. You're aware of their name. You are aware of their narrative. You understand that every tear and wound they have were shed in secret. I implore you to meet them exactly where they are, not where they believe they should be or where others expect them to be, but where they are right now. May God heal the areas of their bodies that are still bleeding from betrayal. Heal the areas where trust has been compromised. Heal the memories that continue to cause pain when they recur. Heal the inner child who discovered too soon that people leave. Heal a heart that has been broken too many times. Apply the oil to each wound and let it provide both comfort and closure. Allow them to have an immediate experience with you. Inform them that they are not alone in their situation. During this season, I pray for supernatural discernment. Provide them with eyes that can see beyond their surroundings. Provide them with ears that can detect what is not being said. Give them a spirit that can discern the truth beneath the surface. Do not let them be misled by emotional manipulation or smooth talk. Don't let them confuse compatibility with chemistry. Do not allow them to accept attention when they are entitled to it. Increase their intuitive abilities. Enhance their sensitivity to your voice in comparison to all others. I pray for the person who is re-entering their life. Prepare both hearts if this is your intention, if this person has truly transformed, and if reconciliation is part of the plan. Eliminate both parties' sense of pride. Replace defensiveness with humility. Anguish will be replaced with dignity. However, God, if this person is returning for the wrong reasons, if their repentance is simply remorse for being caught, and if they have not completed the inner work required for true change, then block them. Please refrain from opening the door. Keep your child from regressing. Give them the courage to decline, despite their desire to say yes, and keep the peace they have worked so hard to establish. I hereby declare that every day of isolation, every moment of feeling forgotten, and every night of wondering if anyone cared were all planned with their best interests. It was all influencing them to become the people they were destined to be. It was all about laying a foundation that would be able to bear the weight of the future. Nothing was wasted or in vain. Every tear nourished the soil from which their destiny will emerge. I'm currently speaking divine acceleration over their lives. Allow events that should take years to occur in mere months. Allow closed doors to swing open. Allow relationships that were meant to exist to manifest. Allow the provision that was postponed to arrive suddenly. Accelerate the previously sluggish healing process. Allow the previously hazy clarity to become crystal clear. Because you are a deity who redeems time. You are a deity who restores what was stolen. You are a divine being who can transform the most difficult circumstances. Allow them to enter the next chapter with confidence, not in their own abilities, but in yours. Inform them that they do not need to have all the answers. They must simply believe in your ability to do so. Allow them to find solace in the fact that they are exactly where they should be. Allow them to give up the desire to control outcomes and instead submit to your timing. Allow them to see firsthand that you were consistently punctual. You were always punctual. In Jesus' name, we certify this, without hesitation and with complete assurance. Not out of fear, but in anticipation. It's been completed. I concur. If the prayer spoke to you, please leave an amen in the comments. Please let me observe your faith. Please allow me to observe your concurrence. Furthermore, the fact that you have read this message in its entirety reflects your character. You have an innate desire to know the truth. You are ready for additional challenges. You've completed the surface level. I am present for it. If you have not yet done so, please consider subscribing to this channel. Why? Because this isn't the last message. More information will be provided in due course. A further disclosure. Additional truth. Additional advancements. Also, do not ignore God's upcoming revelations. Share this with someone who has been isolated and isn't sure why. Please forward it to the person who requires confirmation that they have not been forgotten. Post it somewhere where your future self will be able to refer to it if any doubts arise. Walk as if you're aware of your affiliation until the next time. Stand confident that you are adequately protected. Speak with the conviction that your words matter. And live as if you understand that the best is yet to come. Because it is. We all climb toward the light.